right, so we're going to start this meeting off the way that we start every meeting. I appreciate the wins. I appreciate, Mark, you already sharing a win. But if anybody has wins, we celebrate them large or small. If you have a hiring win, maybe you have a firing win off of our meeting last week. Maybe you just are having a busier winter season, slower season than ever. You know, we want to celebrate wins, however large or small they are. And so if you've got a win, I would love for you to unmute and share.
I'll share my win. We finally got our one sheet done.
Hey.
Finally.
That's awesome. I want to be clear here. Gabe has
Nicole, what are you doing?
I want to be clear. They have a one sheet. We've just been editing it. And so it's finally through the edit process. And now we're going to submit it.
Yes.
But I'm glad you're excited about it, Gabe. I'm excited about it too, especially with having some newer employees. That's going to be really helpful with getting them trained up.
I want to follow up with your win, Gabe, when you have some wins from using that, especially in the training process. We're covering sales process today. And so when you hit some of those here in a few weeks, please keep us posted. I love those.
Yeah, we came up with like a 2-sentence phrase when a customer says, wow, that's expensive. So we came up with a 2-sentence phrase that pretty much consolidates the whole one sheet. And that's what we're going to do a training on next week.
Oh, love it.
Nice.
Training your sales team. Round of applause for you.
And that's a service company. That's even, you know, he's an electrician. And so sales matters, even if you're just service.
Is the first sentence, well, then we're probably not a good fit.
I'm sure Gabe's tempted. To make that the first. Well, probably not our customer. You like cheap stuff. Guess you're not for us.
I just did that yesterday.
Sometimes you do.
Sometimes that's very valuable to do. All right, guys. Well, we'll go ahead and get started here. I do have a win here I want to share. I don't know if they're on here. Fletcher, are you on the call today? No, he's not. Okay, well, I wanted to share Windows Diverse Services, their win of the week. They completed, technically this was I think last Friday, but they completed part 1 of a $115,000 window restoration project. So this project's going in phases, but $115,000 on Windows home restoration. That's a win. He's been taking this customer through each phase of the sales process. She's confirming at each step that she's happy. They've really been working hard on this one. But yeah, $115,000 on Windows. Pretty incredible.
It's no joke.
Wow.
Yeah, and they put a lot of time and work into this estimate, and so yeah, I'm really proud of them. So I wanted to share that win. But let's go ahead and hop into
before you get going, Julia. The
one more reminder,
parent.
If
we could turn on our cameras, if you're in a position where you can't, or you like legitimately can't, you don't have the capabilities, we completely understand. But especially when we go into the breakout rooms, it's really not fun to be the only person with their camera on in a breakout room. And so we really want to be able to get to know you guys, be able to interact. So if you're in the position where you can turn your camera on, we'd really appreciate it if you would.
And then one more reminder, don't forget to update your name with your business name if you haven't already. That way we can categorize you guys for your breakout rooms based on your industry. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started today. So we're covering the ultimate 10-step sales process. So regardless of the industry, regardless of the business, this can, will, and does apply to you. The word that I really want to highlight here is process. So the ultimate sales process, meaning we have a plan, meaning we've thought it through. So I want to go over the broad concept of this today. We have spent a lot of time going over each specific like step in this process here. So you guys can always refer back to your group calls and things like that, your inventory video list that you have for specifics on the one sheet, like Gabe said, or specifics on tracking. But I want to go over the broad process here and make sure that we're in this mindset. Sales, as you guys know, is the lifeblood of your business. It keeps this thing that you've built alive. And so we're just never done with it. We're never like washing our hands of our process. It is a living process that we always want to be documenting and improving. So I'm hoping that's what you guys get from this today. I do want to tell a story that I thought was pretty appropriate today. I love this concept. Don't know if this is a true story or not, but we're going to pretend like it is, just for teaching purposes. So there's the story of selling combs to a bald monk. Okay, so 3 sales professionals applied for a position. They were all equally qualified. The interviewer decided to set a sales challenge here, and the person who sold the most would be awarded the job. So the challenge was to sell combs to bald monks. And so after 3 days, the applicants returned and they reported their results here. So candidate 1 said, I managed to sell 1 comb. Am I echoing? No. Okay. Candidate 1 said, I managed to sell 1 comb, and the monk scolded me, saying that he was just mocking them. He was just making fun of them. It didn't turn out for him. So disappointed, he gave up and left. But on his way back, he did see a junior monk with an itchy scalp. And so he was scratching his head. So he said, hey, the comb is going to help you with this. And so he sold him 1 comb. Candidate 2 said, okay, that's cool, but I've got one better for you. I sold 10 combs. So excited, the interviewer said, oh my goodness, 10 combs. Okay, how'd you do it? Candidate 2 replied, I observed the visitors had very messy hair due to the strong winds that they faced while walking up to the temple on the mountain. So then he convinced the monk to give out combs to the visitors so that they could tidy up themselves and just show greater respect during their worship process. Candidate 3 said, hey, not so fast. I sold more than both of them. And so the interviewer said, okay, how many combs did you sell? And he said, 1,000. I sold 1,000 combs. So the interviewer, amazed, goes, wow, how'd you do it? And so he said, I went to one of the biggest temples there. I thanked the senior master for his service and for serving the people and providing a place for them to worship. He was very gracious and said that he would like to thank and appreciate his visitors for their support and devotion. And so the 3rd candidate then suggested that the best way to do this would be to offer his visitors a memento and a blessing that they could carry with them. So he showed them a wooden comb, which he engraved the word blessings, and told the monk that the people could use this comb every day and be reminded. It would serve as a constant reminder to the good deeds. So the monk loved the idea, and so he bought 1,000 combs. The point is, you can imagine the other 2 candidates are going, oh, you just got lucky, or oh, well, that was just a good idea. But the point is, he had a plan and he was prepared with that plan before he ever entered his sales process. And end of the story, the 3rd candidate comes back and he went back to the temple to check on the master. And he said many visitors told their friends and family about the comb and about the mementos and the daily reminder and the thought process behind it. And now even more people are visiting every day, and everyone is asking for the comb and giving their donations to. The master monk is going to put in another order of another 1,000 combs next month. So the point is preparation. The point is finding a problem, solving it, and then being prepared. And so that's what I really want to hit on today. So someone really important said this week. And so your ability to scale yourself is your ability to scale. Julia Kendall Martin. Just kidding, guys. Someone more important has another quote I want to put forth here. You can focus on things that are barriers, or you can focus on scaling the wall or redefining the problem. That's a Tim Cook quote, CEO of Apple, much more important than myself. Regardless, we want to talk about the plan here and documenting that plan and why that's important to be prepared and be able to scale the literal lifeblood of your company. So why document? Why is it even important to be having this conversation? Why should we actually take the time to document our sales process? Well, you're troubleshooting. You're identifying issues in your sales process. You guys know this by now. The ability to solve problems is greatly rewarded. And so when we're able to identify issues, this changes the game. The problem is your system. The problem is not leads. It's not the economy. It's surely not your product. If it is, that's another conversation we should have. But the problem is the system. And so your documented sales process allows you to identify that. Is your sales conversion too low? Do we have plenty of leads, but we're just not closing as many as we should? Is your cost per lead too high? Are you guys pouring out a ton of money in advertising, but we're just not closing as much as we should? Can your revenue per deal be increased? Should we maybe look at our pricing model if it's construction or remodeling, or if we offer services? Is there additional services? Are there additional problems we can be solving for the customer? These are things that when you have a documented sales process, this will help you identify the issue from a logical perspective, instead of just thinking back like, hey, what went wrong with that deal? Or hey, what could I have done? You know, you actually have the data to be able to troubleshoot this. The thing I always encourage you guys to do, and you know this just as well as I do, but this is your reminder to view this as a puzzle. You know, view this as a way to look at your sales process and the entire piece of it and think what's wrong here. When it comes to process enhancements, see this through the customer's lens here. Where are they going before they call me? Are they on Google? Are they looking at Facebook? Surely they're going to my website. What is the first impression that they are getting of my company before they even talk to us? And then next, think about it from their perspective. Can I send them a referral list? Does that make sense? Am I making sure to direct them to my gallery? Do they see certifications about the problem that I provide the solution to? Are they waiting for estimates from me because we just didn't set proper expectations? You know, you guys are thinking 3-5 day turnaround time on an estimate is pretty good, but if you didn't set the proper expectations through the customer's lens, you know, what are they thinking? Are they shocked by pricing because we have that conversation way too late in the process because we didn't, again, accurately prepare or get information? So I just encourage you guys to, everything we're talking about today, make sure you're viewing it through the customer's lens, and we're going back periodically to go back and look through that. Do you wow the customer? Are they so impressed that they want to go tell other people about your product or service? Your reviews, at least most of you guys that I've seen your reviews speak to that. So just make sure you're always going back through and wowing them. Is the sales process disorganized? Are we coming up with, or are we looking back going, oh no, I need to follow with that lead? You know, we're playing defense here. Oh no, I totally forgot to follow up on this estimate. I should have done that yesterday. Oh no, I scheduled so-and-so for a job this morning. I need to just double check and make sure that he knows to ask this customer about this. Are we always playing defense in the sales process and it's really a disorganized fashion here, or are we proactive? And so there, from there, is your team doing exactly what you want them to do while selling? And that goes into the duplication process of things. Don't be trapped by being the only person who's bringing in the lifeblood of your company. Oh, but Julia, I'm the best at selling my product. Yeah, I believe that. Absolutely. It's your company. You should be the best at selling your product or service. But duplicate yourself, scale yourself. Even if you don't have somebody to take your spot right now, that's okay. The point is troubleshooting, allowing for process enhancements, and then duplicating along the way. Back to my earlier quote there, like you will only scale yourself. You're only going to scale up to the point that you can scale yourself here. And so the process is never perfect. If it is, you need to raise your prices and then start all over again. So the point is to build a system where you can scale, you can revise, then you can scale and you can revise again. And then you can scale and you can revise even more. That's the point, is creating your sales process where it's a learning organism and it's always changing. So how to document your sales process? Let's get to the specifics of that. Start by building your sales flow chart. I'll show you guys an example of that here in just a minute, but building your sales flow chart. This again is where I go back to, block off some time to really sit down and think this process through and get inside the mind of the customer during this exercise. Look through their lenses. How can you serve them better? How can you make it easier for them to make a purchasing decision? How can you make it faster for them to make a purchasing decision? How can you make the follow-up process easier for them and for yourself so you're touching it less time? Or, you're touching it less often, I guess I should say. How can you add more value on a service call? Where in the construction sales cycle is it taking longer than maybe it should, and why? Whether it's a service-based business or construction or remodeling or what industry you're in, this exercise will profit you so much by just taking the time to build this sales process out and this flow chart out. And by doing that, you find little mistakes. Go through your social media, go through Google, go through the website links that you're directing the customer to. Go through each phase of that process and see what the customer is actually seeing. So we'll go through the breakdown here. And like I said, guys, I do want to make sure I'm clear on this, because I'm going to cover a real broad process here. But if you're finding through this flow chart, when you sit down to do this, if you're finding something is wrong in your sales process or something can be improved, Gabe's Electric is a great example. They already had a one sheet. They've had a one sheet for a while, I'm sure. They realized for training purposes, it was time to go back and revisit that. That's the point. Like, that is a great example today. That was a great win that you didn't even realize I could tie back to, Gabe. But you can find more information on each piece of this in your group call video inventory that's on all of your agendas. So use that where you find your troubleshooting takes you. With this, we're going to go over tracking and documenting, scripts, visuals, and then recording each touch point and the opportunity to sell. So get out your drawing board. Back to your workflow here. I quite literally would get out a drawing board, like a literal whiteboard, as you're doing this. My desk here, I can't flip my camera or I probably mess it up, but my desk here is like a whiteboard. I literally have an expo marker right here. Whiteboards can be cheap on Craigslist. There's tons of videos where you can make your own, or just grab
Isn't there a piece of material at Home Depot that's way cheaper than buying a whiteboard, but basically works the same way?
Yeah, and I can't remember what that piece of material
Rudy,
is.
do you remember what it is? Because my office used to be Josh Redmond's, and one of my whole walls was essentially that material. in here.
We have a video on it. Now we can send you guys that if you're wanting it, put it in the chat. But I know we have a video on that material you're talking about, Nicole, and how to make it for like less than $10. So
Just go to Home Depot with an Expo marker and just try it on all the surfaces.
don't do that.
Not recommended.
Anyway, the point is, guys, whether it's a whiteboard, whether it's maybe you have a better way to lay this out. The point is just to get a massive layout when you're doing this exercise and jot it all down. You're literally brainstorming like this CEO here. And then let's look at like an example of a workflow really quick. Now, you guys may be looking at this and you're like, that's ridiculous. I'm not doing that. That's way too complicated. We're not Einstein here. It's really not, you guys. All it is just taking the time to sit down and do it. Everybody's sales process is just going to look a little bit different. We can give you, a best practice. You work with your coach on yours individually. But the point is to draw it out. What's the first thing that happened? Lead comes in. I'd even challenge you right in this lead comes in section to go back and go, where are those leads coming from? And then looking at that. Okay, well, I get leads from Google. You check out my Google presence. I get leads from referrals. Let me ask some of my most popular referrals what they're telling people about me. And they're probably sending them my website link. Let me look at that. Back to getting in the lens of the customer here. Each phase that you're building in this workflow or reassessing, whatever way you're coming at it, get inside the mind of the customer. Check your scripting. You may have written out your scripting a year ago. And maybe you have a gallery that looked great at the time, but now your Instagram is a lot better. Or I don't know what those changes are going to be. Maybe we add an Instagram link. Maybe there's just different social proofs that we have or certifications that we have this year than what we had last year. But just go through this, guys, and figure out from the customer's perspective, how can I prep them up better? How can I be quicker at delivering service? How can I set better expectations? And what needs to be updated here? Okay, so let's go over the ultimate 10-step sales process. I was like going through each system here, and I broke this up into 3 parts. And the thing here, when you're going through this process, you guys, I have clients that a lot of times, like, we almost become numb to this concept because we hear it so much, and we go, yeah, my sales conversion is lower and I don't know why. And I go, okay, are you following the your sales process? Oh yeah, absolutely. But when you really dig into each little step, there's 1 or 2 things that we're missing, and it really is the small details that make massive amounts of difference for us in terms of revenue, sales conversion, cost per lead, just all revenue per job, all of the things. So part 1 here, let's talk about lead management. Where are your leads coming from? Truth be told, there are no bad leads. There may be less qualified than others that don't meet your value that you bring. And so therefore, they're a disqualified lead. But there are no bad leads, you guys. It's just we need to enhance the process. We may like our Google leads a little bit more than our Angie's List leads. We may be spending a lot less on such and such leads than the other. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not disputing that. But the fact is, I sometimes early on will get a lot of feedback from clients that it's like, man, the leads are just bad. Are the leads bad, or is it really what we're doing with them? So going back to that, knowing where your leads are coming from, we also want to be tracking the leads, not just where they're coming from, but are we tracking each individual lead? For a lot of the plumbers, the HVAC contractors, a lot of you guys get a ton of leads compared to construction and remodeling guys or folks who have a higher ticket in their sales process. So if you have a CRM that's managing that, great, awesome, hope you do. But Are we tracking that? And then are we able to funnel in our CRM system our follow-ups appropriately? For most construction and remodelers, you guys can suffice with the spreadsheet that we have a lead tracker for. Wherever you're at in your business, we just want to make sure that we're tracking the leads, because we have to measure what we treasure. And so back to the sales process here. This is, again, the foundation. So I really want to stress this, because this is step one, part one. Don't tell me that your sales are down or low, or revenue is not where we want it to be, when we're following up with a lead one time. Like, back to the plan, we have to have a plan here. And then like a process on how we're documenting. But like, if we're not following up at minimum 5 times, then we don't have a lead problem. We have a problem in our sales process. And that problem could be time. That problem could be resources. Not sure what that is for you. You guys will certainly, hopefully, take the time to go back to your drawing board and look at this. But the point is, make sure we're tracking our leads, measure what we treasure here. But then also additionally, again, we have past group calls on this that would be profitable for you guys to take the time on. But tracking key performance indicators in the sales process. This is how you diagnose what's wrong. Is it a lead problem? Is it a conversion problem? Am I losing them at the follow-up process? Am I losing them because I don't have appropriate objections crafted out? Are my frequently asked questions not maybe documented as well as they should be? So my techs really don't know what to say when they're out in the field. Again, not sure what that is for you guys, but this is your troubleshooting time here. This is for you to turn on your doctor hat and diagnose the problem here. Okay, part 2 is duplication. So we're managing our leads. How do we continue and duplicate the process of the leads and the sales and jobs that we're getting from that? That goes down to inbound and outbound call scripting. Make sure every piece of this is scripted out. That goes into documenting your frequently asked questions. You may know what to say, and you may have a great answer to a lot of their questions, or a great rebuttal to their objections that they're giving you. Or maybe you've learned a trick of the trade where you're definitely going over this in advance, because this particular part in advance, because you find the customer is mad at the end of the job if you didn't set the right expectations. All these tricks of the trade that you guys have learned, we've got to have it documented. Also, communication in each step of this duplication process. Do we have scripted communication on emails? Do we have text templates? Are we making it easy, not having to think a million times, or causing our staff to think a million times about something we've already thought through long before? So we just want to make sure that the scripting and documenting duplication process is in play with us here. I even encourage you guys to make sure we've scripted out a no answer. If they don't answer on our first call, can we lead them to Google reviews? Can we link them to our website, the About Us page, our Facebook? Whatever piece of it you're wanting them to see, lead them there. When we set an appointment, or do we have those that part of the process scripted out? Are we sending appointment reminders? Again, looking through the customer lens here, how do we make it easier for them to purchase our product? Part 3 here is the sales pitch. Simply put, the sales pitch. You guys have worked really, really hard to find a problem that you can solve. There is a problem that the customer has. You are the solution, and you're compensated well for it. You guys have built literally nothing into this amazing something called your business that you've created. So you've learned a thing or two. So what does your sales pitch say? So in your initial appointment, in your draft outline, what are the things that you're going over? What are the things that you have your technicians go over on a service call? What are you doing to have the customer cast the vision on a construction job? Some of you may have like a mix of those two things. You do a lot of bigger installs and you do a lot of smaller service calls as well, or even with your general contractors or your big commercial clients. Again, whatever customer you're looking to serve, what would you say? What has worked well for you? And then draft that outline out. The second thing here is making sure that we're scheduling follow-up appointments. This is huge. This is huge. If we're getting an objection and it's just absolutely a no, like not going to be our customer, okay, redline them, sure, not a lead, but at least have that objection documented. Why couldn't I provide the solution for that customer? Rule number one, if on your bigger jobs, you guys, for a lot of you construction companies, the remodelers, even you know, our plumbers, our electricians, our HVAC guys on the bigger installs, or when it's a potential GC that you're trying to land, the rule number one is review the proposal in person when possible. I would even almost change that to review the proposal in person always, but you know, there's always that 3% of the time that things happen and we can't do that. But this is where the rubber meets the road, reviewing it in person. You guys have a lead that has a problem that you solve. At this point in the sales process where you're in the pitch, you've likely already qualified this lead. So you know that you do have the solution to the problem that they have. So reviewing it in person allows you to gauge some of their objections here. A no, typically a no in this part of the sales process isn't really a no. It's just, I need more information. So, well, the cost was a little bit higher than I thought. It's a lot easier to hit that in person or even on the phone if you absolutely have to, than trying to just send the estimate through email and hoping they call back. Well, I'm waiting on 3 other estimates from 3 other bids I have. Whatever the objection is, it's a lot easier to discuss that in a logical manner in person than it is trying to hit it through email or playing defense by follow-up calls on an afterthought. Because again, guys, any kind of objection you get isn't really a no, it's I need more information. If you continue giving them information and then that value doesn't add up, okay, that's a whole other thing. But most of the time, we're disqualifying ourselves here because we're just not taking the time to review those bigger jobs in person. Isolating objections and documenting those. I briefly touched on this, but this is huge. It typically comes down to pricing, usually, right, guys? Wrong. Most of the time it's pricing, or most of the time it's a timeline. Those are really the most common too. It's timing or pricing. Because really at this point, we should already know if our value doesn't correlate with their problem.
Jump in here.
Go for it.
Hear from clients. Well, I don't know, Nicole, it just seems like our prices are too high. Just seems like they're too high. Just seems like, you know, ever since we raised our prices, I'm just having a harder time. Or I don't know. I think my competitors, you know, I think this, I feel this, I think this. You cannot help what your prices need to be to run a healthy business. You can't help it. You can't help inflation. You can't help material costs. Your prices are what they are because that is where the prices need to be in order for you to run a healthy business. And so get that out of your mind that your prices are just too high or your customers just can't afford it. The alternative is we should just shut doors. You know, it's not worth lowering our prices and not pulling a profit. Then you feel like you're working really hard for nothing. And so instead of our knee-jerk reaction being our prices are just too high, people can't afford it, let me just lower the prices so I can still land work. I guarantee you, if you have those thoughts in your head that your prices are too high, you are not confidently conveying your value. You don't believe in your pricing. You don't believe
Wow.
in your value. So you're not able to confidently give them estimates, confidently execute the sales process. The first thing that you sell is your confidence. So if you don't believe in your prices, your customers aren't going to either. And so the
Yep.
sales process is to help build that confidence, to help build that value so that you can feel confident in your prices and your team can as well. And so just wanted to touch on that. I've been hearing it a lot lately.
I have
It is
too,
the
yeah.
slower season. It is winter time. It is tax season. People are, a little bit holding their money a little bit closer. But I guarantee you, it is not your prices. This is an opportunity to lean
Right.
into your sales process, to lean into your value.
Just to add to that for a quick second, about 2 weeks ago, I saw an article exactly what Nicole was just talking about. It said restaurant in some, small town refuses to raise prices, shutting doors, closing the business down, as if they're, well, we're not going to steep down that low. We're not going to raise our prices again. So let's just shut down our business, our restaurant. And it's like, you got a quarter of the comments on that post going, oh, proud for them. They stood up for what they believe. No. And the other like 300,000 comments are going, guys, we would have paid more. We're going to miss this restaurant.
Right. Right.
And so you're not doing anyone a disservice by making sure you're making the profit to run a business here. And so I'll go on for another 30 minutes after the meeting. It's the after party. So I'll let you go on.
No, but that's so true. I just had a conversation with a client on this yesterday. The client literally said, there is no way anybody's going to pay this. And I just asked him, hey, did you cause materials to go up? Hey, are you the one that made inflation what it is right now? Hey, our trend on inflation over the last 40 years, was that you? No, we didn't do this, but it just happens. It's the way that it works. And so to like Nicole and Rudy's point, do we shut the doors? No. What we do is we communicate our value, and back to isolating objections there. Have a logical conversation in person with your customer. If there's somebody out there who's going to provide the same service, using the same materials, using the same overhead that you're doing, all of that, and they're doing it at a way less price, guess what? They're going to weed themselves out because they're not going to be able to do that for the rest of forever. And to Nicole's point, this is something that you guys are probably going to run into more this year, just because I'm getting this feedback more than normal. And so I know probably if I'm getting it, you guys are getting it as well, is cost. So some people go, it's just, man, the cost of my electrician has gone up. The cost of my plumber's gone up. Well, guess what? The cost of your plumber and your electrician, they're paying a lot right now in training, in advertising to bring on new journeymen and apprentices and things like that. This is all things that unfortunately they're also having to overcome some of those struggles. And so their overhead's higher. And so it's just the way it works. And so when you're sitting there with again, if you're getting a lot of pricing pushback, we're probably not either communicating our value, or we're probably not offering simple and transparent estimates. It is literally logic, you guys. And when you sell the customer on the solution to their problem, and you set that expectation before you pour a bunch of time into an estimate, kind of knowing where they stand on budget, it really just does come down to communicating the right expectation. And that's where we close the deal. Set proper expectations for success here, you guys. Once you have the deal closed, and I'm certain you guys are doing this, but again, as you're going back through and looking at your flow through your customer's lens here, what questions are we not answering? What complaints do I sometimes get that maybe I could have explained that early on? These are things that just build a an amazing experience, which builds your brand and leads to more referrals by just going through step 1, step 2, step 3, all 10 steps, and making sure that we are setting the proper expectations. I do want to close with this verse here, Acts 20:35. In everything I did, I showed you that by this kind of hard work, we must help the weak, remembering the words the Lord Jesus himself said. It is more blessed to give than to receive. They have a problem, you have the solution. In all you do with your sales process, if you're serving others, if you're adding value, and they have a problem and you have the solution, then how can this not be a win-win? How can you view your sales process as you guys are going through this with a dignified, servant, value-added heart? And I'll end there and we'll go into our breakout rooms.
Wow. For anybody, this is your first time in